is internet pornography, anonymous sex, strip clubs, prostitution, that kind of thing. The second level is more serious. There are victims involved. That's things like voyeurism and exhibitionism and groping and things like that. And the third level is off the charts, and that is the real serious stuff like some forms of pedophilia and also some forms of rape and serial rape. So I was stunned. The only thing that I could identify with when I read that was masturbation, because I had been with my husband, through the college years, and he and his friends and fraternity jokes about masturbating. He went on to tell me that he had also abused drugs and alcohol, but the sexual addiction was full-blown, the true addiction in his life. He said that he had been a sex addict way before we ever married, that this disease had started in his early teens. His disease had flourished during our 14-year marriage. He then said I needed to get tested for sexually communicable diseases and, most importantly, HIV. My beloved husband had been having anonymous, faceless, unprotected sex even while I was pregnant with our children. I dropped the phone and I fell to my knees. For a few moments I had the sensation of falling down a deep, dark hole, and I believe now, truthfully, I fell into hell on earth. I think I went into shock, my breath got shorter and shorter, and I began to hyperventilate. With every quick exhale, I quietly, almost in a whisper, repeated the words, "God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?" Still on the floor, I rocked slightly back and forth. I could hear Ben weeping on the phone where the receiver lay next to me. He kept saying, as if he were answering me, "I don't know, I don't know." I reached for the phone, a white slim line, and I hung up the receiver. I realized that night that the one person who I should have been able to count on to guard my heart, my very life, didn't exist, and never had my entire married life. As soon as I caught my breath enough to cry, I wept deep, long sobs that came from within my soul. I was physically sick with disbelief over his behavior. My life was a total, complete lie. The kids were in the living room waiting for me to say goodnight and put them to bed. They may very well have saved my sanity that night. I pulled myself together and opened my bedroom door. Thankfully, the only light on was from the TV, so the kids could not see my red and swollen eyes. I asked if any of them wanted to sleep with me that night. That wasn't a common occurrence, but I needed the reassurance of my children, pure and real, sitting next to me. Two of the kids, including Harper, jumped at the chance and got into our bed. The other two slept peacefully in their own rooms, not knowing what had just happened between their parents. I kept the TV on all night. I must have dozed on and off for the rest of the night, and the phone rang at 2 a.m. in the morning. It was one of my husband's therapists from Menninger. They had asked him not to do that. That's known as a disclosure, when someone tells you about what their behavior has been done, and that's not the way to do that over the phone. And that would later lead me into, I actually, because of that night and certain other things that I found out about my husband, I did suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and I was admitted 3 years later into inpatient treatment for trauma. And part of it was a big part is because of the way the phone call was told to me that night. She said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "How do you think I'm feeling?" I said, my voice was flat and emotionless. And I think by that time, I really started to die. I think everything inside me, everything about being a wife and being a mother and being a woman especially, died. She suggested I call Menninger and in the morning to plan an immediate trip out to see my husband and meet with his team of doctors. And this is one of the most critical things that anyone ever said to me very early on. And she said, "We certainly understand if you don't want to deal with this and just decide to divorce your husband immediately. A lot of people do that. However, if at all possible, I would encourage you not to make such a major, life-changing decision when you are in the midst of such severe emotional distress. If at all possible, Maurita, come out here, learn about your husband's addiction, take the time to work through your extreme emotions before you decide what to do with your marriage. And for me, that was great advice. If I had immediately served him papers in rehab, which a lot of women do, I don't think I would have gotten the help and healing that I now have in my life. So that was a very important piece. And I'm going to read you one other, my first journal entry that I wrote after finding out about this. And my book is based on the actual journal entries that I wrote. This is dated August 8th, 1997. Had a good day today blocking everything out until about 5 p.m. What I found out about B's behavior before and during our entire relationship and marriage is just too much to take in at once. After finding out 2 nights earlier about all his sick fucking fucks, all the hundreds of lies and manipulations, my whole married life to this point has been a fraud and a hideous joke. I just can't take it all at once because it is too much for me to bear. I want him to feel what it is like to give so much of yourself to someone and have it mean nothing. I am going out on Tuesday to meet with his main therapist, Sally, and some guy named Dr. Richard Irons to learn more about his fucking disease. I am filled with rage, fear, and hopelessness. I have to accept the fact that I allowed a stupid, selfish pig of a man, he does not deserve to be called a man, walk all over me and humiliate me in public and private. He didn't protect my beautiful kids or me. I will now call them my kids because the selfish pig doesn't deserve them. I hate him. And now, in closing of this, I am going to read to you, and the book really travels along right with me. You will be able to see what this is like to go through this, and then to face myself and my own life and my own choices, and coming out healthier and better for ever having gone through this. And I'm going to read to you the dedication of the book to tell you this book was I sent the manuscript in 5 years ago, so here's the dedication that I wrote. To my 4 children, the bright lights and great loves of my life, miracles do happen and people can change. And to my husband, you were right. Marrying you has been a wild ride. Thank you for your complete, unwavering support and patience throughout the writing of this project. I love you now more than ever before.
Wow.
That's